Hi, I'm Elizabeth Gearhart. I'm here with Eric Chesson, who has fitness programs for people with autism. Hi, Eric.
Hi, Elizabeth.
So tell us about what you do. I've never met anyone before who has had the foresight and intelligence to develop a fitness program for that category of people who need it so desperately.
Thank you. And you're giving me something to live up to now. Yeah, so I'm the founder of a company called Autism Fitness. I've been working with the autism population of all ages and ability levels in a fitness capacity for nearly 18 years now. And for the past 3 years, myself and my business manager, we call him the business manager, but he really does just about everything else that I don't do. um, Created the Autism Fitness Certification Level 1, which is a program for an entire spectrum of professionals and parents and family members who want to deliver outstanding, individualized, and really effective fitness and adapted PE programs to the autism population.
I think that's wonderful. Everybody needs physical fitness, right? And
Yeah.
for some people, it's a little different and a little more challenging. I personally am short, so I don't do well at basketball, let's just say.
Welcome to the club.
But but this is a real service, and really, if anybody thinks about it, something that the world really needs.
Yeah, and thank you. We sometimes talk about it, at least where we are right now, is that the services that we're providing and that our certified pros are providing are a luxury that is really a necessity. And that's because of the access. So if you look at the entirety of the autism population, you're talking about close to, if not a million people of all ages in the United States alone. And if you look at that on a global scale, there are a lot of individuals who are not being served because they simply don't have access, whether that's in the private sector or in the public sector as well. So we have what we call the movement for movement, which is really to educate all populations who are working with or living with this population on not only the importance of fitness, because as you mentioned before, I don't think there's anybody who would really debate at this point that fitness should not be considered a life skill or that can't enhance quality of life. The key is here, how do we make it accessible to everybody, regardless of where they are geographically or where they are on the autism spectrum, because we may have someone who has a lot of challenges physically and behaviorally, but that should not prohibit them from having accessibility to fitness programming that makes sense for them.
So, do you run these fitness programs in existing gyms? Do you run them on?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, really good question. So I'm a recent transient from New York to here where I am down in Charlotte, North Carolina. So previous with my one-to-one and my small groups, I was operating out of a couple different facilities. One in particular had a multitude of different programs for the autism population, and I've also worked out of some small gyms as well. Because the majority of our focus now with Autism Fitness is the educational and certification component. Our certified pros are operating out of a variety of different environments. For example, we have certified pros who are parents who are just doing one-to-one sessions with, I won't even say that some of them are children, but they're teens, they're young adults who they're living with and caring for. Then we have fitness professionals who are working out of a gym facility, usually a small independent gym. And then we have therapists and related service providers like occupational therapists, physical therapists, speech pathologists, behavior therapists who are introducing these programs into their clinics. And then, of course, we have our adapted physical education teachers and coaches who are bringing the curriculum back to their schools and using it as the base curriculum for their adapted PE.
You really are starting a movement for movement. I mean, look at all the different groups you have involved. How are they finding you?
They're finding us through both word of mouth and we really do have a very strong Google presence because, and if you want to go into SEO, I've been writing and creating videos about this subject and showing videos of my athletes and showing what's possible and then breaking down how to do it for the better of about 15 years now. So there's a lot of content that we have out there. And then inevitably someone will discover us and say, wow, I know that I didn't know something like this existed. So again, the trajectory and the goal is to really get more people to know that, number one, this exists, and number two, it's something that has an extraordinary track record of success behind it. And that's been proven by the 300 plus certified pros that we have worldwide now, validating the methodology because they're working with athletes who I will never meet, but they're using the concepts, using the strategies, the way they're intended to be used, and they're getting, you know, the same results that I've gotten with my athletes.
So why couldn't you just use an existing program for somebody who's not autistic with people with autism? What's the difference?
That's an awesome question. And there are similarities and there are also differences. So one of the principal concepts that we talk about is the fact that with respect to the exercises and the programming itself, there's no such thing as an autism specific exercise. We're all human beings, so there are exercises for people. And then we have to figure out at what progression or regression or level of challenge or level of simplicity we have to teach that exercise to that particular athlete. Now, I developed something we call the PAC profile. That's PAC, and it stands for physical, adaptive, and cognitive. And the reason being was I mentioned that term luxury earlier, but we don't necessarily have the luxury of our athletes automatically being motivated to perform physical activity or to engage in an exercise program. So the thing that really sets the Autism Fitness method apart is it would be easy if I just handed out sheets of exercise programs to people and said, oh, you've, you know, a 17-year-old on the autism spectrum, here you go. Here's hurdle steps, medicine ball push throws, squats, presses, etc. The difference is we're looking at 3 areas of ability: the physical with relation to that exercise, at what level can they perform the exercise; adaptive, or what's their motivational level and how do we incentivize that, and then we get into positive behavior support components of the program; and then cognitive, how is this individual going to learn this particular exercise best? Because what we see the most in as a barrier or an obstacle to successful coaching is overcoaching and giving too much information. So when we figure out at what level, at what amount of information or what amount of information is going to be pertinent to this individual getting this independently, that's where we want to coach from. So we talk a lot about meeting the athlete where they are at right now in terms of physical, adaptive, and cognitive functioning, so we can figure out baseline and start from there and get success early and often.
That's wonderful because, as you've mentioned, autism is a spectrum. So that part of, I think, is very, very important. The other question I had, what age ranges do you work with?
Just about all. The youngest athlete I've worked with or assessed was, I believe, 5. And we've also done assessments virtually. I've done some consulting with the under 5 population, where we're talking predominantly about a lot of motor planning training that we're doing. And then my oldest athlete back in New York was 55. So an entire range, because if we're looking at fitness as a life skill, well, when are we going to stop moving? When are we going to stop needing to be strong, stable, and have good motor planning skills in order to have optimal development at any stage?
Well, that is wonderful to know. So how would people find this?
Um, Go straight to autismfitness.com. We have a strong social media presence also. I like being very transparent about what we're doing. We don't keep anything a secret in terms of the methodologies or what's happening. So when I'm talking about a concept or a strategy or an exercise progression or regression, I want people to actually see what we're doing, because the response to saying, "Oh, I'm the founder of Autism Fitness," is almost universally positive. And my follow-up to that is, wait, I want you to see what we're actually doing here, because it might surprise you at how much our athletes can progress and what they're actually doing.
So how big do you think your community is now?
Into the thousands, as far as, you know, with the certified pros that we have and the families that we're able to benefit, and, you know, the people who are joining us on social media. It's a difficult count to make, but I would say we're well into the thousands. But it's a movement, so we continue to grow, because again, our goal is to make this not only the standard for fitness and adapted PE for this population, but to make it accessible.
That's really, really wonderful. You know, it's really great that there's people like you doing things like this, and congratulations on your movement. Is there anything else that we need to know?
Thank you. Well, I think that the initial, and I'm fortunate in that the parents and the families who find us are already highly motivated. And I think the one real piece that I'd like to get across is there are plenty of families who say, "Oh, my son, my daughter hates to exercise," or I've never been able to get them to do, this exercise, or get them on a treadmill, or whatever modality it is. But the truth is that the programming and the methodology was created with everybody in mind. And we, at any level of physical, adaptive, or cognitive functioning, we can find an inroad and make something work.
Wow, that's great, because sometimes it's hard to get people to exercise just in general.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I exercise every morning, but some mornings, boy, I'll tell you.
Sure. And we have to take that into account. And it's something where another fundamental aspect of our programming is we talk a lot about respecting our individuals for the human beings that they are. So we want to take into account that when someone is working with us, or one of our certified pros is working with someone, they are respecting that athlete as a human being first, who has thoughts and feelings and needs and capabilities. And the more we can emphasize figuring out where someone is at, what their capabilities are now in the moment, the more we can develop a program that really works for them.
And I really believe that that is why you are so successful, and why this is growing and will continue to grow. Because you cannot force somebody to do something that they just can't do, whether it's physically or mentally.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And if you look at that, this is why we go through these three different areas of ability. If you look at it from a long-term perspective, when we're looking at adaptive or motivational functioning, if you are trying to just push somebody through an exercise routine or through a session, it's highly unlikely that they're going to want to stick with that lifelong. So my initial goals are all about making this a comfortable, safe, low anxiety provoking environment, and getting success early and often, and teaching the athlete that they are capable of performing an overhead press, that they are capable of carrying a heavy sandbag back and forth across the room. Because when you have that buy-in from the adaptive area, when they're motivated, this is something that may stick. We tend to, as human beings, we tend to stay with stuff that we're good at and stuff that we like doing. So our goal is to have those same properties generalized to exercise and being physically active.
I think the fact that you bring up the term anxiety shows a real insight into working with anybody, really, but maybe more so people.
Sure.
Because there is anxiety around exercise.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. And the anxieties The reasoning behind the anxiety or the cause of the anxiety may differ a little bit for the neurotypical or general population. There's anxiety around exercise oftentimes because people think they're going to be judged, or they think they're going to fail at something, or they think that they're going to look silly or stupid. For the autism population, a lot of that anxiety has to do with the comfort zone of not knowing what's happening next. And one of the things we talk about in the certification course is the best way to increase anxiety is to not let someone know what's going to happen. So in de-escalating the anxiety, yeah. So if you had a trainer who said, okay, we're going to do some stuff today, and it might be heavy, and you're like, I don't know what's coming next, because you're not able to set yourself up and focus. You're just perseverating on, okay, what is he talking about? What's coming next, right? But when we're giving an athlete information, we're careful to give them information that is going to de-escalate their anxiety by, number one, offering them choice. So I'll say straight out, do you want to do push throws first, or do you want to do cone touches first? Because I don't care which one they do first. I want them to be able to choose. So choice and autonomy are going to alleviate that anxiety, because you're giving someone an opportunity to decide what they want to do. So by adding structure to the curriculum, we can de-escalate that anxiety, because we're telling someone, this is what's going on. You get to choose. Let's try this.
It sounds like you're coming from a very knowledgeable and very caring perspective on this to me.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I love the athletes that I've worked with, that I'll continue to work with, and I want for them to be as successful as they possibly can. And I come from a place, the reason I started this is because I love strength training, and I love being physically active, and to be able to pass that on to another athlete and see them squat below parallel for the first time, or see them carry a heavy sandbag, or see them do a bear walk, or see their motor planning improve. To me, I have this empathetic glory with that, because I can understand or resonate with what they're experiencing in that moment. And for them to be able to own that and know what it feels like and be competent and be independent and master it independently, to me, that's kind of my platinum standard, is I can guide you through this, but once you're independent with it and you can do it yourself, then we reach a point where we're doing what exercise is really meant to do. And that's generalize or carry over beyond just that exercise session. But then we have an athlete who is carrying groceries, or doing the laundry, or walking up or down a flight of steps safely with a better gait pattern. So the goal of all this is not to just get footage for YouTube or Facebook in a feel good kind of, look what this athlete can do, but to have it generalized to the situations where most of the time the camera is off, but performance is on.
That's amazing. And I'm sure that it gives them confidence as well. If they can master a skill,
Mm-hmm.
then that always increases a person's confidence, right?
Oh, well, totally. And the fascinating thing about it is, for a lot of our athletes, particularly those who are nonverbal or who have limited communicative skills, at least as far as productive speech, to say, oh, they're confident in I don't really know, because they can't express it. But we have to use whatever observable information we have. And when an athlete walks into the gym setting saying hurdle steps, or saying log carry, carrying around 50 or 60 pound sand-filled log, you have to say, I think they feel, if we're going to throw this label on it, I think they feel confident, and that's because they're asking for it and they're initiating. So where we don't outright have an athlete saying, I feel confident, because most people don't say that anyway, but they're initiating an activity that they wouldn't have initiated before, then I think a reasonable person could surmise that they are getting something out of this, and they recognize that they can do it.
Well, this is amazing. And it's just wonderful that you came up with this idea. Is there anything else that we need to say about this right now?
I'd say for anybody who who wants to get involved, you know, on the professional side, it adds a tremendous amount in your practice. We have, again, occupational and physical therapists in the program. We've had developmental pediatricians, particularly behavior therapists and speech pathologists can develop wonderful, very unique curricula out of this, because there are ways that we can implement speech protocols and ways that we can implement behavior protocols within the framework, or using fitness as a foundation for this. I think the only real other general point that I would make is one of our major goals is to have fitness spoken about and movement skills spoken about in the same conversation and in the same sentence as we talk about the other life skills that are usually associated with the autism population when we talk about speech and socialization and activities of daily living. We're very adamant that fitness be spoken about within that realm as a life skill that will carry over to so many other areas of critical importance for this population.
Well, I agree 100%. Well, congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. We have a long way to go. I'll finish that thought. One of our certified pros who's up in New Hampshire, she mentioned she was speaking with one of the local board members for a school, and she said, "Oh, in this program we have over 300 certified pros worldwide." And she reiterated this story to me. She said that representative, she left and she said, "We need 300 in this district alone." So that's, you know, the movement for movement. We keep going forward because we know how powerful the work is, and we know that there are people out there who would be dedicated and fully capable of delivering it.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, thank you, Eric.
My pleasure. Thank you, Elizabeth.